You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
We're standing on Coventry Street, outside the former site of the Café de Paris, which opened in 1924 and was one of the few nightclubs to remain open during the Blitz. With hindsight, it's difficult to imagine any explosion being unexpected during World War II, but when the cafe was destroyed by two 50-kilogram bombs on March the 8th, 1941, one of the heaviest nights of bombing London saw, it came as a genuine surprise. Myths had circulated that the nightclub, situated underground beneath the Rialto Cinema, was invulnerable. The cafe's owner advertised it as the safest and gayest restaurant in town, even in air raids, and fooled the public into thinking that there were 4 solid stories of masonry above it. In reality, as its patrons that night tragically discovered, all that protected the cafe from a direct hit were the glass roof of the Rialto Cinema and the ceiling of the Café de Paris itself. There was a grim irony to the ballroom, which, with its mirrored oval room and curved staircase around the bandstand, recalled the ballroom on board the Titanic. At least 34 people died, and 80 others were seriously injured. The actor Ballard Berkeley, who was working in his spare time as a special constable, described how, "When I went into this place, I saw people sitting at tables quite naturally, dead, dressed beautifully without a mark on them, dead. It was like looking at waxworks." The bombing had started early that evening. Had they dropped an hour later, the casualties would have been far worse. Rescue workers combed the site by moonlight for 3 hours, looking for survivors. Air raid wardens chased off the looters who prowled around the floor of the shattered nightclub, ripping open handbags, tearing rings off the hands of the dead and the unconscious. Among the dead was the club's band leader, and perhaps one of the most important figures in the history of early British jazz. His name was Ken Snakehips Johnson. The nickname came from his dancing. He was born in Guyana in 1914 and originally sent to a grammar school in the UK at the behest of his father, who wanted his son to follow him into medicine. Snakehips, however, had other plans, especially after visiting New York in 1934 and seeing the jazz band leaders Cab Calloway and Fletcher Henderson in action. He studied with choreographer Clarence Buddy Bradley and soon developed an idiosyncratic, fluid style of dancing. What he really wanted was to form his own swing band, despite his limited musical abilities. As one colleague commented, he couldn't tell a B-flat from a pig's foot. He travelled back to Britain in 1936 and launched the Emperors of Jazz with Jamaican trumpeter Leslie Thompson. When Thompson quit in 1937 after a vague disagreement about policy or music training, the band was renamed the West Indian Dance Orchestra. Snakehips may not have been a great musician, but he had an immeasurable impact on black music in London. He chose to work only with black Caribbean band members, directly countering the discrimination black musicians often encountered in Britain. Snakehips made black musicians more than acceptable, he made them famous. He was handsome, elegant, 6'4" and dressed in a white jacket. He was kind and gentle, but also enthusiastic and charismatic. He regularly appeared on BBC Radio, hosting programmes such as Calypso and Other West Indian Music to showcase black talent, or directing his orchestra live from the Café de Paris dance hall, which was specially wired for BBC broadcasts. He also used his spot at the cafe to present London's most talented black artists, including female singers. He bridged the worlds of black activism and jazz. Snakehips was also gay, a rare figure in what was the macho and homophobic world of 1930s jazz. Indeed, this fact went officially unacknowledged until 2014. His partner was Gerald Hamilton, the wickedest man in Europe with Edwardian airs and malicious anecdotes, who had served prison sentences for bankruptcy, theft, gross indecency, and being a threat to national security. The couple lived at 91 Kinnerton Street in Belgravia. They drank wine and went sailing on the Thames together. After Snakehips died, Hamilton was devastated. He kept a photograph of his lover with him at all times, dressed in a white tuxedo with white satin facings, and referred to him as my husband. In 1941, Snakehips was at the height of his fame, despite the war and the Blitz. He was 26 years old. On the 8th of March, he was having drinks with some friends at the Embassy Club, which wasn't far from the Café de Paris. The air raid had already started, and the taxis had fled. Despite the warnings of his friends, Snakehips was determined to arrive on time to his show. He went by foot, running through the blackout and the bombs. He reached the nightclub at 9:45 p.m, and his band, who had been waiting for his arrival, struck up their signature tune, oh Johnny, How You Can Love." The patrons took to the dance floor. Ken Snakehips Johnson leapt up onto the bandstand and started to dance. And it brought the house down.